So good afternoon everyone. So today we will be covering the pulp and paper industry part 2. In the last class we covered the part of pulping process. What are the different methods of creating the pulp, the characteristics and other things we covered in the last class. Now in this class the rest of the pulp and paper industry will be covered up. So we will discuss about the paper making process mainly in this class. So in the introduction of the paper making, paper is made by following steps. There are a few steps that started with pulping process. Uh, Pulping process to separate and clean the fibers, then beating and refining the fibers to give them a sufficient strength of those fibers, diluting to form a thin fiber slurry or web slurry, suspended in solution, forming a web of fibers on the thin screen, pressing the web to increase the density of the material, then drying to remove the remaining moisture, finishing to provide a suitable surface for intended end use purpose. The thin sheet. So the paper, so we already discussed the different pulping process. So from the different pulping process, the pulp we are getting, that from that pulp we are making the thin sheet from the pulp of wood. Making the thin sheet from the pulp of wood or other fibrous material is finally converted into paper. So we use the paper mill, a special mill that has all kind of operation for making the paper, is used in manufacturing paper from the pulp and also manufacture the converted paper products. So pulp, virgin pulp as well as converted paper products. From the virgin pulp, using the paper mills, we produce paper and also the converted paper products. So first step after the pulping process, we need to prepare the stock for sending into paper mill. So the stock preparation process, that is the raw material for paper making, that includes various types of virgin pulp and also their blending as well as some recovered paper grades, some recovered news paper or other recovered paper that we generally collect as a waste. We can also use in the stock preparation process. Generally, 4 to 6% of the fibrous material in the paper making accounts for reuse of the pulps, like newspaper paperboards. 4 to 6% of the fibrous material, uh, those are accounts for reuse pulps. In addition to the chemical requirements in the pulping process, a large variety of other materials are also used. Other materials like fillers, sizing, and coatings. What are these things and what are the purpose of using, we will be discussing in the later slides. Inorganic raw materials are also used in the stock preparation process. Those include clay, talc, uh, titanium dioxide, zinc sulfide, calcium carbonate, calcium sulfate, barium sulfate, slum, etc. So in the raw material, we already must have virgin pulp as well as their blending as well as recovered paper grades. Okay. In addition to that, we need to add various kinds of fillers, have sizing and coating for chemical requirements and also other inorganic raw materials uh, for some desired quality and finishing of the product. We generally add these inorganic raw materials. Organic raw materials such as rosin, glue, waxes, glycerol, and some dye stuffs are also used as a raw organic material. So, this pulping process is followed by, first we have already do already take the pulp out of the various fibrous material. So pulping process, then we have to prepare the stock for making the paper. It involves series of operation by which pulp properties are tailored or tuned to fit the product produced as per the desired quality or finishing. To balance the efficiency and reliability of the paper making process against end product quality, it is very important how, like you already have seen that in the market there are various grades of paper, and there are various other purpose of using different kind of papers. So obviously the process and the chemicals that should be used in producing paper or finishing giving finishing or coating of the paper, it is very essential that what are the chemicals you are using. Okay, and also we need to know the end product quality. The finished stock is a suspension of the defined quality as per the mixture and the characteristics of the fibers, additives, and impurities as well. Stock preparation consists of several process steps. These systems differ considerably depending on the, obviously it will depend on the raw stock used and on the quality of furnished required. The operations are practiced in paper mills are dispersion. What are the unit operation? Dispersion, refining and metering and blending of fibers with additives. So we will now discuss about the unit processes that are used in the stock preparation. Briefly, we will discuss. So first unit process, that is slashing and deflaking. To break down, the objective of this unit operation is to break down the fiber raw material into suspension of individual fibers. Slashing should at least result in a pumpable suspension suspension enabling coarse separation and deflaking if required. In case of the recovered paper, ink particles and other non-paper particles should be detached from the fiber in this stage. Then is screening to separate the particles from the suspension which differ in size, shape, and deformability from the fibers. So there should be separate or individual fibers so that we need to screen out other impurity, other forms of particles. Those are very different in size, shape, and um, size shape from the fibers. Fractionation. Fractionation to separate the fiber fractions from each other according to defined criteria such as size or deformability of the fibers. Centrifugal cleaning. It is also used to separate the particles from the suspensions which differ in specific gravity, size, and shape from the fiber. Refining to modify the morphology and the surface characteristics of the fibers. Also, there is selective flotation to separate the particles from the suspends which differ in surface property like hydrophobicity from the fibers. Non-selective flotation to separate the fine and only the dissolved solids from the water. Bleaching. It is very important step. Bleaching to impart yellowed or brown fibers with the required brightness and luminance. Washing to separate the fine solid particles from the suspension, solid-solid separation. Dewatering to separate water and solid for drying, and dispersing to reduce the size of the dirt specks or other stickies like visibility, floatability to detach ink particles from fiber. We are doing dispersing. So these lot of unit operations are involved in the paper making process, in the mainly stock preparation process of the paper making. This system obviously differ considerably depending on the raw stock used and on the quality of furnished required. For instance, in the case of pulp being pumped directly from the pulp mill, the slashing and deflaking stage will not be required. Okay, so depending on the situation, this whole lot of unit operations are present, but which are to be used in your case or in that particular situation, that should be selectively chosen. So pulpers are used to disperse the dry pulp into water to form a slush or slurry. The stock in the pulper is accelerated and deaccelerated repeatedly, and the hydrodynamic shear force are produced by the severe velocity gradient. The resulting force serves to loosen the fibers and reduce any flakes into individual fibers. So the main purpose in the pulper is to make the all kind of fibers into well dispersed in individual fibers. Paper made from the unbeaten virgin pulp, obviously this will have very low strength. Virgin pulp would produce low strength if it is not beaten properly. This is also bulky and has very rough surface. In good quality paper, the fibers must be matted into uniform sheet and must develop strong bonds at the point of contact. So the beating and refining process is very important, by which their undesirable characteristics can be changed. So the refining process, it develops different fibers properties in different ways for specific grades of the paper. Usually, refining aims to develop bonding ability of the fibers without reducing their individual strength. So there will be improvement in the bonding ability between the fibers without reducing their individual strength by damaging them too much, while minimizing the development of the drainage resistance. So the refining process is based on the properties required of the final paper. So now we will discuss about some common pulp stock additives. What kind of additives are used? So the common pulp stock additives are used, that is acid and bases. So we all know that in the process we are using acid and bases to control the pH of the solvent. Sizing agent, we generally use sizing agent. This is very important ingredient. Okay, so often this is used to reduce the water of the other liquid penetration into certain paper products. So this so that it resists water repellent, it acts. So that is it resists the water penetration into paper product. Dry strength additive. So this is a strength and stiffness. Uh, Objective is to improve the strength and stiffness. We are using a starch wet strength additives to link the fibers among. We are using different kinds of polymers for that. Fillers. Fillers are used to the slurry to increase the brightness, bulkiness, and also flexibility, opacity, softness. This kind of features are added to the paper using fillers. Fillers example kaolin or titanium dioxide. Defoamers are also used to reduce the foam and entrained air. So defoamers such as surfactants are used. So this kind of additives, category of additives, and some examples I have already discussed. These are used for making the suitable pulp or stock for making the paper out of the pulp. Okay. So giving an example, like when you are using the suppose you are using the fillers. Okay, so talking about fillers, it improves the brightness, right? So suppose you are using uh, kaolin, this is a clay, okay? You are using CaCO3 also TiO2. So this is a very brightness is very least brightness you will get, and this is obviously this will be brighter than using clay whatever you have achieved, and TiO2 this is the brightest white you will be achieving, but it is costly. The, the thing is when you go up to TiO2 the cost will vary. So this kind of fillers, this kind of thing we need to take care when you are using additives. Next we will discuss about pulp refining process. Most of the strength properties of the paper increases with pulp refining since they rely on the fiber-fiber bonding. However, the tear strength, which depends highly on the strength of the individual fiber, it decreases with refining. At a certain point, the factor limiting the strength is not the fiber-fiber bonding but the strength of the individual fiber. So the refining, when it will be beyond, this will cause the decrease of the individual fiber. So we need to take care of it. Refining a pulp increases the fiber flexibility and also results in a very denser paper, which makes them, improves the bulkiness or opacity or porosity value. It will decrease during the process. Mechanical and hydraulic forces are employed to alter the fiber characteristics. Now, the shear stresses are imposed by the rolling, twisting, and tensional actions occurring between the bars and in the grooves and channels of the refiner. Normal stresses, either tensional or compressive, those are imposed by the bending, crushing, pulling, or pushing action on the fiber clumps caught between bar-to-bar surfaces. So there are in the process you can see there are rolls and other arrangement. Those will create this kind of forces onto the sheet of paper, and that will improve the um, bulkiness, opacity, decrease the porosity, overall improving or refining the pulp into better fiber-fiber bonding and improving the individual strength of the fiber. During the beating and refining process, fibers are randomly and repeatedly undergo various tensile, compressive, shear, and bending forces. So next, we will go slowly into the process of paper making, right? So the pulps which are being prepared, these are water slurry. It has fiber content 0.5 to 0.75% fiber content. So this much of watery product is pulp. So we need to make a sheet of the fiber content from the pulp. So it requires a special arrangement of the or special equipment for that. After the stock preparation, pulp is sent for the paper making process and conversion of the fiber suspension into the paper sheets. Thus, after the stock preparation, the pulp is sent for the paper making process and there the conversion of the fiber suspension into the paper sheets incorporates three principal steps. First step is the random arrangement of the fibers into a wet web. Then the next step is the removal of the free water from the wet web by wet pressing and compaction of the sheet. Then slowly the progressive removal of the additional water by heated roll. So these are three principal steps. First, the pulp is being introduced onto the screen and there will be random arrangement of the fiber into the wet web. Then removal of the free water, that is by wet pressing and compaction of the sheet, and the additional water will be removed by heated rolls. Now, what kind of machine is used for paper making? That is Fourdrinier process. Fourdrinier machine is used for paper making, and this process was developed to accomplish all of the three steps. Now the capacity of this one single machine is as high as 400 to 500 tons of paper per day it can produce. Now we will discuss one by one the each step of the paper making process. First one is the formation of the wet web. So, when the pulp is introduced onto the screen, a wet sheet is formed by running 99.5% of water fiber slurry evenly onto the moving endless belt of wire cloths at a speed of 50 meter per minute for fine paper to 500 meter per minute for newspaper. So the water drains by gravity there, and a part is next removed by pressing roll. The free water is being removed, and then by suction roll. So in such way, the free water is removed from the wet sheet. The screen also had a sidewise shaking motion to give better interlocking between the fibers onto the mat. So the water collected in the wet wave forming section of the machine is known as white water, and it is can be reused to obtain the maximum recover of the fiber because it is very watery. Only 0.5 to 0.75% fiber is there, so we need to reuse the white water more than 1 2 times, so there will be maximum recover of the fiber. Converts the water as well as additives and to prevent the stream pollution. Next process will be pressing of that wet sheet. Whatever wet sheet is being prepared, the pressing should be there. So the first is the wet paper sheet that contains all. Still, it contains 80% of the water is fed by a felt roll to press to the pressing section. Now into the pressing section, the water content is removed by mild pressure to reduce the content up to 60 to 65%. So the bond or the watermark, whatever if needed, is formed onto the sheet during this pressing stage. Then whatever we have removed the free water content up to 60 to 65%. Now it is sent to the drying section. The sheet from the press section has sufficient strength to carry its own weight, right? Now, when it passes through the press section, the fiber to fiber bond and the strength, sufficient strength has been gained by the sheet, paper sheet. So, it can carry its own weight. It is passed It is passed through the smoothing roll, then a series of steam heated metal cylinder where the heat and the moisture are transferred to the felting or the canvas belt running on top of the paper. Paperboard is dried directly without a felt. So it is being dried by the heated roll or steam heated metal cylinders are there. As the sheet leaves the last drying roll, it will have 5 to 6% of water content. It is passed through a final series of pressure or calendering roll to produce a smooth and well finished paper. It is wound on large rolls and transferred to the finishing department where it may be cut, coated and packaged. So this you can see this is the Fourdrinier machine, paper machine. So here what happens? Here is the head box where mixing of the pulp and it is being mixed with water to make it as watery content like 0.5 to 0.75% fiber content is there. Then it is fed to the first section, that is the wave forming section. In the running screen, there will be forming of sheet, wet sheet will be there. And then in the through the field, it is like moving. This blue line is the paper moving towards the end. Okay, now there will be pickup rolls and there will be pressing section. So in the pressing section, there will be elimination of the free water content of the um, free water content of the paper. And then there will be drying section, steam heated cylinders. And from there, drying section, this will be the calendaring section. There will be further pressing to remove the water content. So as you can see that um, when it enters into the, this is the 90% the H2 content. If I am plotting, if I am marking, this is the 90%. When it enters into the pressing section, it is around 80 to 82%. Then after the pressing section, when it enters to the drying section, it is 60 to 65%. And then it is 5 after the drying, it is 5 to 6%, right? Until it continues up to 5 to 6% in the finishing stage. Okay, so let's once describe the process of the paper making. So at the forming stage, 0.7% or 0.5 to 0.75% pulp suspension is spread from the head box onto the surface of the forming fabric. The spray drains through the forming fabric to produce a wet pulp mat and producing a sheet that consistency of roughly 20%. At the pressing stage, the wet pulp mat is squeezed between the rollers and the press felts. This produces a sheet comprised of roughly 40% fiber and as well as 60% water, depending on the sheet grade and the paper machine. At the drying stage, the steam heated dryer or cylinder, they removes the more water from the sheet, reducing the concentration of the water in the finished paper up to 2 to 6%. Now finally, at the calendar stage, the paper is sent through a series of roller, applying additional pressure and heat to the passing sheet. Okay, this procedure produces very smoother, glossier and more uniform paper sheet. So we have discussed, and now we will move. So we will now discuss about environmental impact of this pulp and paper industry, because there will be I already discussed in the first class of pulp and paper industry that it causes lot of water waste generation, and also huge source of deforestation. So there is lot of environmental impact. So environmental impact, the process of this manufacturing of paper, it requires a significant amount of natural resources, right? We are using wood, water, as well as energy to run the machines. So as well as a lot of additives or chemicals are used, which has negative impact on the environment. One of the biggest environmental impact of the paper manufacturing is the deforestation. For getting the wood pulp, you need the wood as raw material, for which you have to cut down the trees, forest. So there is the process of deforestation. This can lead to soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, other environmental problems as well. So in addition to the deforestation, the paper manufacturing process can also lead to air and water pollution, right? So the chemicals and the other materials used in the process that can contaminate the water resources, right? So there is lot of chances of lot of point sources of water pollution that leading to water quality issues, and can also contribute to air pollution through release of greenhouse gases like CO2 and other pollutants. To address these environmental impacts, the paper manufacturing industry needs to invest in sustainable manufacturing practices and technologies to minimize the impact on the environment, so that it can process their own waste, so that there is minimum impact on the environment. This includes the recycling of the material, reducing the waste generation, and reducing the energy consumption, and implementing the water conservation measures. Next is one of the challenges, recycling. Recycling is one of the next challenge. So, while the paper is one of the most commonly recycled material in the world, the process of recycling is not that easy. It is complicated and always inefficient. One of the challenges facing the paper manufacturing industry is the contamination. If the paper is contaminated with other materials like food waste or plastic waste, it can make it very difficult to recycle and can reduce the quality of the recycled product. Other challenge is the cost. We already know that cost is very critical issue and challenges facing by the paper manufacturing industry. The industry is highly capital intensive with significant investment required in the equipment, infrastructure as well, and the raw material collection. So this all about the paper making process.